I don't understand how people think that police are just like these robots. This is traumatizing, man. I will never forget the faces of people that I've watched actually die in front of my face.
Welcome to the Man of War podcast. My name is Rafa Conde, and of course, I am a man on a mission here to transform you into a modern day warrior, into a man of action, a man who steps up come hell or high water, a man who is a patriot at heart, a man who's looking to get stronger in body, mind, and spirit, to be a better father, husband, leader, visionary. That's what this Man of War movement is all about. Now, today, I got an amazing guest. And this guy really speaks from the heart. He has a tremendous following. And I got to tell you that brace yourself for this podcast. This is not for the faint at heart. Brandon Tatum is a former Tucson police officer. He's founder of the TatumReport.com. He's CEO of 3 companies, co-founder of Blexit, and has become one of the most prolific speakers and exciting personalities on social media. All right, now listen, this guy's had videos that went viral, 70 million plus views. All right, he's been on Fox Business, Fox and Friends, Headline News, Newsmax, invited to the White House. I can go on and on, all right? He's done podcasts, with Ben Shapiro, Salem Radio. We can go on and on here. Look, the bottom line is that this guy is a true influencer, all right? He consistently speaks to crowds of over 1,000 people. He shared the stage with many renowned leaders, including the President of the United States. He's spoken over 26 colleges and universities in over 20 states, man. That's incredible. All right. Just this year alone, by the way. Brandon is well recognized for his perspective, dynamic personality, authentic message, and his natural ability to relate to everyday Americans. And that is for sure. When you listen to this conversation, you're going to quickly realize that he is a patriot. He is a man of honor. He speaks from the heart. And to me, that says everything. All right, guys, I want you to dive into this podcast, listen to it, not just once or twice, but listen to it a few times. Why? Because you're going to really get to meet here after we talk and we dive into exactly what's going on with our society. All right, guys, see you on the flip side. Brandon Tatum, man, welcome to the Man of War podcast. It is an honor to have you on. All right. First and foremost, what I'm going to do here is this for our audience, especially the ones that don't know who you are, what you're about. What I want to do here is I'm going to let you introduce yourself, give us a little glimpse of, what you're doing nowadays and where you came from.
Yeah. So I grew up, born and raised Fort Worth, Texas. So I'm a Texas boy. I grew up in, I could say, a balanced household. My mom and dad wasn't together, and they didn't like each other. they were rivals, for the most part. And but my parents did the best they could to raise me and raise me right. Sometimes we lived in great areas, sometimes we lived in not so great areas. I graduated from Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, a very historic Black school, all Black school. And, it had some issues. Football was tremendous. Our sports teams were great, probably the best in the state. One of the best in the state, but crime was out of control. People fighting, pulling guns on each other in the parking lot, and so coming from that, and coming from an Afrocentric perspective, I went to college because I was an All-American football player in high school, top player in the nation, and then I ended up going to University of Arizona, and it just revolutionized my mind. I grew up believing that police were all races and white people were racist, and that I had to, do some extraordinary acrobatics in order to be successful.
Right.
Come to find out that wasn't necessarily the case. And at a university that was primarily white, I didn't have a single problem with not one white person on campus, not one. And actually, I had some friends who were white that I liked better than my Black friends. So, things begin to, open up for me. And I got saved in 2008. I was baptized and filled with God's Spirit. And that really revolutionized my mind as well, because I stopped looking at people based on color and all this other crazy stuff. And it was more so looking at individuals based on the content of their character and the fact that we're all God's children. And then, football didn't work out for me. 2010, I was in the NFL draft. I didn't get drafted like I expected that I would be. I mean, I was heartbroken, but I believe God had another plan for me. And so I needed a job, opportunity. I applied for almost everything that I could find in the city of Tucson, which is where I went to school at, graduated. And, you know, the police department called me back, which was a shocker. I never thought I'd be a police officer. You know, when I was 8 years old, I got arrested for smoking marijuana in a vacant house. So I didn't really have like this great idea of policing. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I need an opportunity. You know, I had a young son at the time. I think he was either just born or not born yet. Not when I was, okay, he wasn't born yet. So I was like, man, I got to provide. I can't, you know, forget all the rest of that stuff. I need to provide for my son no matter what. And so I said, I'm going to join this job. They pay $21.88 an hour. They got benefits. And I remember thinking, like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I need to try to do a ride along or something so I could figure out what's going on. And I was blown away on the ride along. I was absolutely blown away. You know, Officer Sean Payne, he's in my book. He exemplified what a real hero is. And I never forget that ride along experience. And that drove me to become a police officer for 6.5 years. I was on SWAT. I was a field training officer. I was a PIO, spokesperson for the police department. I trained at the academy. I did everything that I could in that 6.5 year span. And I began to be more political. You know, once they started taking them taxes out of my first check, and I thought I was going to be able to have an apartment, a brand new car. And then when them taxes came out, I was like, oh, no, man, this is not right. You know, I became more political. I was a Democrat at first. I was more, you know, liberal minded, I think, because, you know, through, you know, default. And not because I'd done any real significant research. And then over time, as being a police officer, seeing the things I've seen, Barack Obama, you know, talking terrible about police, it really just shifted me to being more of a Republican. And I recognize that I'm more conservative than anything. And did some politics stuff, you know, made a couple of videos that went viral, 70 million views here and there. And then it just led me away from policing, and I'm in a position I'm in now.
Yeah, and your position is great because for the most part, you can speak your mind, and you know, you speak from the heart, which I love. Now, let's go back a little bit here. When you were a police officer during that time, and this is something that I ask often. A lot of cops that I've worked with, you know, had a 17-year career, and I'll be completely frank with you. I never one time in 17 years came across internal racism as far as our department. I worked in my first department was one of the lowest socioeconomic cities in the state of Florida. And the violence there was off the chain. Even within that police department itself, you know, everybody pretty much got along. There was never any issues that I remember. And the fact that the media, the fact that other people started to raise this quote unquote red flag on racism, internal racism in departments and how police were treating others on the street. To me, it was confusing at the time because what they were saying was not something that I was living, and not just me, but others around me. So when you started talking about the reality, you know, of that, that's not the world that we live in, man. I just aligned myself with you. It was like, you know, no way. We don't live in that world. This is a make-believe world that people are out there saying these things and it's not true. So your stance first and foremost, and during your career and the people that you've met through your career now, do you think that racism is a big part of policing in our society now?
No, I think that's the furthest from the truth. And it's weird to me because I don't know if these people actually believe this or they're just evil, you know, and they want to create division. It's like, how in the world, you know, like you said, you were a police officer for twice as long as I was, but I never, and I'm Black, you know, so if the racism was going to happen, I'm going to be the first to at least feel it at some point, you know, but I never, nobody's racist on the police department. And if they were in their consciousness, they never displayed it because it is almost impossible to live out racism as a cop. Because you don't get to pick who you serve. You know, they call for service and you got to put your life on the line for whoever's on the other side of that call. And a lot of times in the inner city communities, that's what you're responding to. You're responding to people who have been victimized, somebody who's been shot to death. or somebody's, been robbed, or the house burglarized, somebody's been raped. Like, this is what majority of what policing are responding to. You get into shootings is not that often. I didn't get in a shooting one time, and I worked in the most dangerous city per capita in the state of Arizona. Plus, like I said, I was on the SWAT team and stuff like that. So, I never shot anybody. I mean, I was close, but I never shot anybody. But you know how many people I saved of all colors and races and religions and sexuality?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think it's a load of crap, man. And it's sad that they've been able to push this narrative, and the functionality of the narrative is just because they have majority white police officers. And to me, I feel like that says more about the Black community and minority community than it does about white people. Because why don't Black individuals put them protest signs down and quit complaining and go apply? And in many of these cities, there are a lot of Black officers, but there's a lot of complaining that goes on, and there's not a lot of applications going out. So it's not a racist organization. Never seen it, never knew of it. You could say that there were some people that were racially insensitive, but I mean, that's life, man. Everybody didn't grow up the same. So, just because people don't understand how Black people act,
Sure.
don't make them a racist. It just, they may be racially insensitive, and that's not what you get paid to do, is to coddle people and understand where everybody's coming from. You're here to enforce the law and do it in a way of protecting and serving other people.
Yeah, and one of the stories that I say, speaking to some men not too long ago, I brought up a situation that happened not too long ago either, where it was a situation where, when this whole Black Lives Matter started sparking up, and the George Floyd situation happened, and people, everybody just started to hate the cops. I mean, we were being pushed around, and people were spitting at our cars, and there was a particular incident where this individual was a 20-something-year-old Black male, came up to my car, spit in my window multiple times. I got out of the car. I'm like telling him, not to do this, to get out of here, whatever. Hey, that's not cool. I knew his mother at one point. I had dealt with her, and the next thing I remember 2 days after that incident, I am pumping him, trying to save his life, CPR, after he had been shot by his friend or whatever. I'm there, and his girlfriend screaming in my ears, a family screaming, "Please bring him back, bring him back." I mean, the whole incident, I don't want to get into all that incident right now, but what I did is something that so many officers do. How many times in your career, well, I'm sure, where you had people, talk down to you or scream at you and hate you, and the next thing you know, they're calling you to help them and resolve this problem. And I think that the mentality of police officers now is just that. I mean, it's to help and to really protect and to do what they can. Are there some bad apples? Of course there are, man. I mean, we all know that, right? So I want to know your point of view, where you think police work is now and where you think that it's headed.
Yeah, I want to touch on that real quick. I had a guy do the same thing to me. We were just doing a check welfare on a gentleman. I think some people had called in on him. They were walking behind the Circle K, and we walked up to him, and he was like, just real rude to us. Like, "Man, F you, what y'all talking, whatever. Get away from me. I don't want to talk to you." It could have been 5 or 10 minutes later. We got a man down in the middle of the street. He's been shot multiple times. We go up to the scene, and it was the same guy that we had just talked to. I mean, if he had actually listened to us, he probably saved his life. But he was shot, and I remember that guy begging for his life and saying, "Please don't let me die, man. I don't want to die." And we have this thing called a IFAC kit. It's a first aid kit for gunshot victims. And so we happen to have, sucking chest seal. We have quick clot and stuff like that we were able to use, tourniquets and stuff in this little kit. And so we were able to pull it out and save this dude's life. We patched a couple of sucking chest wounds that he had, because he had got shot multiple times.
Sure.
And he ended up living. So it's like, that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. And the rhetoric that's being pushed, while the situations that we just said are realities for us, it really turns police officers off, because you're like, look, man, I'm putting my family aside to do this honorable service, and the thanks I get after I'm literally saving Black people every day.
Yep.
And like you said, doing CPR and watching these young brothers get just snuffed out at young, and it's traumatizing the police officers. I don't understand how people think that police are just like these robots. This is traumatizing, man. I will never forget the faces of people that I watched actually die in front of my face.
Amen.
And
yep.
I'll never forget that. And when you are doing that on a day-to-day basis, and then you turn around, you go home, all that stress, you try to recoup and do different things in your life to make you, kind of give you a break from being a police officer. You show up to work the next day, and now all of a sudden you're a racist. It's a racist institution, and people are coming and trying to burn your police cars, and nobody's doing anything. The city manager, the mayor, nobody's doing. The police chief has tucked his tail between his legs. You're like, what? Bro, why would I do this? Why would I keep coming out here serving them? Screw y'all. I take this check and I won't be proactive. I see a hand in hands. I'm just gonna keep driving. Why am I going to go chase this guy down? And if he shoot me, I shoot him back. I'm going to go to prison. So it really, this rhetoric is just destroying the morale on the police department. And I could imagine that there's an influx of racial tension on the police department as well, because when I was there was no racism, but there were Black officers who wanted there to be racism. We used to have our codes that we use for race. We used to use numbers. So number 1, was Hispanic, number 2 was Asian, number 3 was African-American, and number 4 was Indian, and 5 was white. And so that's how we used to address people. We say, oh, I'm out with a number 1 male. I'm out with a number 3 male. So you didn't have to go through all of that African-American, Black, American of African descent, or somehow, Native American, Indigenous American, you just give a number. But the Black officers on my department, I had to separate myself from a few of them. They said, that's racist. That's racist that, you use number 3, because people are now using that as a racial slur. When they talk about Black people, they say the number 3, like it's the N word. And dude, I tell you what, man, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And I could imagine, back then that these people are building themselves up to find issues. And nowadays, I bet there's a lot of issues too, where there's Black officers that have this influx of feeling like, yeah, this is a racist institution. They are doing wrong to my people, and it's killing the morale.
So let's talk about the morale. I mean, for the most part, I've taught in the police academy for over a decade. I've seen the morale. It's been a while since I teach, a couple of years, but I saw even the morale started to slide. The type of person that was coming in through the academy was not the same individual, the same quality of candidate. Do you foresee law enforcement kind of taking a downward spiral, because now people are looking at this and saying, shit, I don't want to be part of this. This is not, look what happened with, George Floyd and all these other incidents where police officers now, some states want to take, certain, I think it was from a perspective of a civil, take cops now into a civil lawsuit. And it was
qualified immunity.
Yeah, qualified immunity. And even in our county here, we had a guy literally shot. It was a shooting, and they sued him civilly, and they went to his house and took everything he owned, ripped his house and took everything that he owned. That has to scare people. I mean, that has to scare, as a cop.
Man, I wouldn't be a cop. I wouldn't be a cop. I have to say this, man. I love the job. I thought it was the most honorable thing I ever done in my life. I would not be a cop today. I'd be looking for another opportunity. It is bad, because I remember on our police department, outside of the racial political stuff, the morale died on our department because the city didn't respect us. We went 10, 11 years without raises. And when I got onto the department, out in the academy, I was making the same as officers had 5 or 6 years on the department, because they hadn't gotten raises. And the city never gave us raises, and they make this trolley car to nowhere and spend hundreds of millions of dollars on that, and they wouldn't give us a raise. Our patrol cars were falling apart. I remember I was going code 3 through an intersection, and the code 3 equipment went out. In the middle of I'm going code 3 to save somebody's life, and equipment went out. And it was the morale had took a dump, man. And they fired, one of our chiefs left, and they supposed to hire internally. Normally what we do, we had great internal candidates. They said, no, scrap all those. We're going outside. They got a guy from Richmond. He had a husband, and there's nothing wrong if you want to be gay, but that's why they hired him, because he was gay. And this guy was the hatchet man. He cut all of our drug task force. These guys have been on apartment forever, and they finally made GTAC. And now they got to go back to patrol. Oh my God. They never took calls. They hid every day, and all the rookies were taking the calls. So morale died just off of the city's disrespect for police without the rhetoric. Now you add in rhetoric. Now you add in people questioning qualified immunity. I mean, people don't understand qualified immunity does not protect an officer who commit a crime. Qualified immunity is saying, and within good faith in the confines of you working on behalf of the state, you are protected from civil lawsuit when you are acting on behalf of the state. If you commit a crime, you go to jail. That's qualified immunity is afforded to not just police officers, to public officials, judges. They have qualified immunity too. So it's like, well, if you want to get rid of qualified immunity for police, then you got to get rid of qualified immunity for other public officials.
That's right.
And it's asinine. Now just imagine the department already treating you like crap by not providing, extra finances, no raises. And then you got the public out here saying that you're all racist and they need police reform and they pushing critical race theory. I remember one thing, and I'll try to keep it short. I remember one thing that we did when they started pushing the LGBTQ agenda. I remember all of our training. We had 6-minute training. We do legal updates and stuff like that, mandatory, right? But the little thing was 6 minutes, and you had a quiz at the end. Now you can take the quiz 100 times. If you fail, you fail. You can skip through the 6 minutes if you want. Just keep skipping and you get to the end or whatever. But the LGBTQ trans video we had to watch, 45-minute video, it was mandatory on duty, and you couldn't skip the video. Now, of course, people just played in the background, turned the sound off, and had it rolling while they just writing paperwork. So, but you had to watch 45 minutes of it unobstructed, and people died. I mean, the spirit of policing was dying in that scenario.
Yeah, that's without a doubt. I think that's a great point how you ended that. I mean, the spirit of police is dying across the board. In my opinion, I see it pretty much everywhere. Listen, I don't want to be the negative Nelly, but at this point, reiterating your point is that 100%. I mean, the fact that qualified immunity, people think that it's okay to rip that from an officer. I mean, I got to tell you that when an officer is acting in good faith, think of any civilian going out there and doing something in good faith to save another person, and all of a sudden they get sued because that person technically died after the fact. Okay, but he's doing everything he can to protect that person, to save that person. It's a sad state that we are living. Let's talk about this critical race theory. Okay, what's your opinion on that? The mentality, why people are even teaching that. I got a huge problem.
Yeah, there's we have an agenda, right? There's an agenda to create and develop a country that's communist. And there are people who are striving to accomplish that. How do you accomplish communism, socialism, and just kill the spirit of freedom in America? You have to start with division. And when you create division, it's not enough to have adults divided, because now in policing, and they've been successfully able to divide race because everything is racist. Systemic racism that they preach is the boogeyman. It's essentially the boogeyman. There's no example of it. You can't point to it. You can never fix it. It's the boogeyman. And so systemic racism that affects adults, right? So the generation of older people, they get into conflict. People are upset with each other. The political climate makes you upset. But now they need to get your children so they can indoctrinate the next generation of division. And once they have you divided, then they can say, you know what, we're your savior. We're going to make it all together. So you put them in the power, and then they go and they mandate vaccines and do stuff to you and take away your doggone freedoms and take away your guns. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Everything that China is doing is a prelude, or a preliminary step to what we're doing. Social currency, all of these things, they're trying to do that. CRT is a part of that mission. And they want to indoctrinate your young people, indoctrinate your kids to hating each other, because kids don't typically even care. They ain't even thought twice about the color of nobody's skin. They want your kids to be divided. They want them to hate America. They want them to hate each other. They want Black people to be victims forever. All you got to do is look at entertainment. Every video, every movie about Black people, they slaves and it's Jim Crow, and all of this other crazy stuff that they do. So they want Black people to be a consistent victim class. And then they want white people to be guilty They don't want you to have pride. They want you to feel guilty from being white. And then when you have the degradation and the breakdown of a community, and you got your kids transing and want to be gay and all this other stuff because they're getting indoctrinated through cartoons and all this. And once all this fall apart and Christianity is no longer a thing, you know, where it's an afterthought, and then they come in and take over for everything. So that is a one step in the multiple step process of just destroying our free nation and making us a totalitarian society.
We are missing patriotism in our society. The fact that you have Olympic, you know, I hate to say this, but, you know, athletes in the Olympic, you know, talking about burning the flag, talking about ripping the flag up and throwing it away and representing our country. Do you think that there's something underlying, I mean, severely wrong with the lack of patriotism that we have in our society right now?
1,000%. I mean, it made me sick to my stomach. You know, there are athletes that love this country, but you're seeing a trend, right? I mean, I feel like 80%, 90% of people were patriots, you know, after 9/11, but now I think it's probably 60%, you know, maybe 60, 70% of people who love this country. And that's a problem because we see the trend growing. CRT has a factor in that as well, of teaching you to hate America and that America isn't equal for everybody. And it's like, what dumb brainstem missing person is trying to say that America isn't equal? America affords you any opportunity that you're willing to take advantage of. But if you teach people that America isn't, Black people is under the thumb, or minorities are under the thumb of the white man, and this is a white society, and that Black people can't be racist because you don't have you know, systemic control or whatever these stupid things are. You know, they create this level of hatred towards this country. And when you bite the hand that feeds you, you're in a very bad predicament. When you live in America, in the freest nation on earth, and the you know, the most prosperous nation on earth to be Black in, you know, when you start biting the hand that feeds you, you're going down a slippery slope of demise, and you don't realize it. But if you don't acknowledge and respect this country, you are willing to let the country go. And when the country goes, you're going to be like the Jews. You know what I'm saying? That they put them in internment camps, and they were killing them, and they were trying to, you know, they were trying to extinguish them. And the same thing is going to happen to minority people who hate this country and pursue that goal. You are going to be in a negative position. Your vote will never count. The Black on Black violence is going to be out of control. Wedlock, you know, all of these different things are going to be out of control. And if you don't approach actually a destructive situation, you will self-destruct. If you approach a situation where there's no racism, you create racism. If you approach a situation where the police are not doing anything to you, you make them do something to you. You pull a gun on them. You resisting arrest.
Sure.
Those are the things that really just bother me, and I think that's the direction with this anti-patriotism spirit in our society.
So let's talk about let's change subjects here, and let's dive really right into masks, the vaccine, and how there is such a clear separation between those who believe in wearing masks and those who believe that there is no need for masks. And it's literally, I mean, and you see it, and you're saying to yourself, man, I mean, we have clear division, because those that are wearing masks are looking at the ones that are not wearing masks and saying, you know, they're evil, bad people. So where do you stand on this whole mask situation and on vaccines?
Oh man, I hope I don't get you in trouble. But you know, I think that it's stupidity. You know, my thing is this: you can do whatever you want to do. It's America. You want to wear a mask, you want to wear 5 masks, do you? But don't be stupid. Don't be an idiot. The masks they're not going to stop you from getting sick. I don't know how many times this is like virality, whatever you want to call it, not virality, but virus 101. They're going to go through that little cloth mask that you got on. If you can smell my fart through your mask, you're going to get COVID in that mask. I don't understand why people, they walk around the grocery store. Even now in Arizona, you don't have to wear masks. They walk around the grocery store and they're so holier than thou. I have a mask and I'm protecting my family. And then, but they don't have no gloves on. They're cross-pollinating. Not one person in the restaurant, not one person in the grocery store have a mask on. So everybody in there getting everything sick, if according to them. You can listen to any virologist and they'll tell you, listen, the molecules are so small, they're going to go through that mask. You're not protecting yourself from anything. You're just being an idiot. And then when you look at the vaccines, they have this, everybody knows this at this point, unless you want to be disingenuous, that the vaccine is not going to stop you from getting sick, and it's not going to stop you from transmitting anything to another person. So to act like people are the devil because they don't want to take an experimental drug that's not even approved by the FDA, then you are the problem, in my personal opinion, because I think it should always be a choice. If you want to wear 5 masks, then pass out with your 5 masks on. If you want to get a shot, go get a shot. Get 3 of them. Get boosters. I don't care. But people who don't want to do that because of their own various reasons, they should be allotted the same level of respect as people that want to go down the path of doing it. And like I said, I think this is a government control scheme. The government knows doggone well that the people that are affected by COVID and the variant are elderly people and people with poor health. They should be practicing and teaching people to have better health. If you want to mandate something, you need to mandate that people be able to go to the gym. You need to, I don't know, if the government want to spend trillions of dollars, get people gym memberships, get people better access to good nutritional foods, shut down McDonald's and fast food once a week or something. If the government really care about your health, they don't give a flying flip about your health. They want you to be on these drugs. They want to put you on more prescription drugs. It's all a farce, man. And we can see it clear as the noonday sun that children are not getting the COVID and dying from it, but they want your kid to wear 5 masks when they go to school. It's a government control tactic. They're trying to control us. And this is what it is. This is like, dangling the carrot. This is them trying to pitch a little something, see how far we'll go. How much will they take? Because they got a bigger agenda. If you ask me, they got a bigger agenda of taking over, but they want to see how much will you take? Oh, mask mandates. Okay, let's take the mask mandates off. Let's see how they act. Let's reintroduce it. Oh, now you got to wear 2 masks. That fool Fauci said 3 masks. And then they go, well, now everybody got to get a vaccine. It's a choice. We did this for the public. Now you got to wear a vaccine or you can't introduce yourself into society.
Sure. Yeah.
They will see how far they can push it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they're going to go from there.
Well, I'm definitely agreeing with you here. The issue here, it's also the mentality of that we have as a society. Unfortunately, we have this herd mentality where it's almost to the point where, you do this, I'll just follow along and I'll do it also, even though everyone's getting their research from memes that they put on Facebook, right? There's been no thorough investigation. These are not the type of people, unfortunately, that go out there and do the research or make their own decisions. And the fact that, you see people walking around in the streets with masks on, driving inside their cars by themselves with masks on, it becomes where you're looking at it from just a common man's point of view. There's something disturbing about that. So the reality is that we are a free country. If you want to wear your masks, I'm with you on that. Wear your masks, do what you need to do, but don't look at me any differently if I'm not wearing mine. That's it.
Yeah, in the car. I saw a lady at the gym. I was at the gym the other day. At the gym that we go to, they don't make you wear a mask at all. Even when mask mandates were in place, they tell you can wear a mask, but when you work out, you can take it down, so you can breathe or whatever. But, people had it down the whole time in the gym. But, this lady was on a treadmill and I just can't believe what I saw. Not one mask in there. It is packed to the ceiling of people in there working out. Not one mask, nobody wiping no machines down, nothing. This lady is literally on the elliptical with a mask on. And I'm just thinking I'm not going to say anything to you because that's you want to be dumb. That's on you. But what level of brainwashing have you been subject to that you think it makes any sense to wear a mask in a gym that's packed full of people, full of what they call them, super spreaders, if you want to say that. Right. You're just dumb. You ain't got no gloves on. You're touching the machines. You're breathing in the same oxygen that these people are breathing in. It's circulated air. This not. They don't have the doors open. I mean, these same people will wear a mask and then they'll go to a restaurant, sit down and take the mask off. and then they'll put the mask on. I saw this lady. It was just disturbing to me. I was walking by this table in DC in an outside restaurant, and nobody has masks on clearly. But I'm walking by the thing, and I don't have a mask on. And I felt like it was a group of people looking at me like, "Why don't you have a mask on?" And it's like,
right,
dummy, you don't have a mask on, and I'm walking by you. What's the difference of me standing here or sitting where you're sitting?
right.
It's just crazy to me. And then they come out and be mean to you. You're
Yes.
super spreaders. And I can see them looking at me. It could be my own subconscious behavior, but I see them looking at me when I'm in the grocery store, the three dummies that got a mask on. And when I call them dummies, it's because nothing that they're doing that makes any sense. It's virtue signaling. I'm doing what's right for the public, but their kids don't have masks on. It's like, come on, man. Your kids don't have masks, but you have masks. Like, what sense does that make? If they get contracted, they're going to give it to you. You're pushing this stupid buggy that they didn't wipe.
Mm-hmm.
It probably got all kind of diseases on it, but you cool with that, but you got your mask on. You look, you know what I'm saying? And then they go to try food and they go, like, your brain is just not working right, in my personal opinion. So, you know, I just want people to be informed and stop being so gullible to the government. Just do your own doggone research, man. Do your own research. They never made us wear a mask when the flu season hit, did they? No, they didn't. They never mandated the flu vaccines. They required it, but they didn't mandate it. In many of these places, you had medical exemptions, you had religious exemptions. They never did this. So you ask yourself the question, why are they doing this all of a sudden? It's crazy.
Oh, I'm with you, man. I couldn't agree more with that. Where do you think our society is going with this type of mentality, where you're seeing the media just send a message that is just very confusing especially to the younger society, the 12 through 16, 18-year-olds, and you're seeing a quick shift that transgenders is okay to play in girl sports now, and you're seeing the young men start questioning their orientation, and same thing whether it's for men or for young girls, and all of a sudden you just see this entire scattered world of unicorn land. And it's confusing as hell, because it's like, man, this just came out of nowhere, because it wasn't like that a decade ago. Some things have changed. What's your stance on that?
Well, there's two things. I'm really hoping that the Bible is not manifesting itself at this time. I'm hoping that this is just a bump in the road, and it's going to ebb and flow. The Bible says in the last days, these things are going to happen, and right is going to be, wrong, and wrong is going to be right. And people are going to be teaching false doctrine, and people are going to be confused. Sexual orientation, Sodom and Gomorrah type situations are going to happen. And that's the end time. I'm really hoping that this is just an ebb and flow situation, meaning that it's going to reach a breaking point. You can only go so woke, before you are having a seizure, if you make, what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, you can only be so woke, like when you can only promote unicorn land until you get hit in the face and you realize, oh man, this is not real. And I think a lot of things that they're doing is they're infiltrating these young people, and these young people in college that become complete idiots. And then they get out in the real world and they become conservative, but they're dumb between, school, grade school to graduating college. And then eventually they grow out of it when they start paying taxes and start looking at these politicians, realizing that that most of them are frauds, the Republican or Democrat. So I think that it's going to ebb and flow, which I'm hoping that it does. I'm hoping that we see all of this backlash on the police and all this, and then it's going to turn around, because once you realize that demonizing the police and defunding the police is causing your cities to go to crap, then people are going to say, oh, you know what? We need to this ain't right. And politicians only go to where they can get votes. So if people are now saying, now you better fund the police, now they're going to be talking about how important it is to fund the police and how the Democrats have been funding the police since, 1912. You know what I'm saying? So, that's what's going to happen. Once these kids are committing suicide on massive amounts because they're confused about their sexual orientation, then I think we're going to see somebody making money off a cause of stop in the suicide in young people and help them when they're young, and have more, government programs of counseling for young people who are confused with their sexual orientation in about 40 years. And then we're going to see all of this stuff the tide start to turn. And I think people are going to be more conservative. You can only get so woke, man. It burn you out. Like, if everything is racist, then people get burnt out over it. They're like, oh, okay. And, you know, that's racist. And they kind of go down a rabbit hole. You know, I don't know if you know who the rapper DaBaby is. I mean,
Yes.
the guy is just have an incredible destructive, he have destructive lyrics in his songs, and none of that matters. He can rap and be on BT talking about killing black people and selling drugs and degrading women. But as soon as he say anything that alludes to the negative behaviors of the homosexual community, then they cancel him on everything. But you got to think, man, a lot of people like DaBaby. And so when they see him canceling, they like, wait a minute. Y'all really gonna take him off? Y'all really gonna take his performance? Y'all really take him off the #1 chart or whatever he was featured in the song? They took his name off the feature. Like, you really doing that for what? This is what y'all doing right now, and it's gonna hit a breaking point where people are gonna begin to rebel against it.
You think cancel culture is a wave right now that we're gonna get out of, or you think it's gonna get worse?
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, but you can't cancel everybody, because then the people who are canceling are going to get canceled. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know, you see it with Cuomo, and I don't know. I feel like they got an agenda behind that. I'm suspicious of anything that the government is doing, and they pushing at this rate. But you got Cuomo out here just trying to cancel. He's trying to cancel Brett Kavanaugh. When Brett Kavanaugh was going through that, he's like, believe all women. You know, this man should not be in office. And then now look at him. Now he getting canceled. And so the same thing, you know, people are out here canceling. The next thing you know, you're gonna be the one getting canceled, because it's a slippery slope of hypocrisy that has no end. You know, they just get woker and woker and woker. You know, if you believe in the unification of a nuclear family, now something wrong with you. You know, you hate gay people because you want to be married to the opposite sex, and it just get woker and woker and woker, and everybody else get trapped and dissolved in it. And before you know it, everybody's canceled. And then all of it takes is a brave person with a huge following to say enough is enough. This cancel culture stuff is enough. Or you cancel one of their favorites, and then now it all unravels. I think that's how it's going to happen. But I think it's going to get worse, because, you know, for them to be able to do a rapper like DaBaby, like they doing him, and black people are not like just burning buildings over it, it makes me feel like, oh, it's going to get much worse before people really get in their feelings about it, you know? So I think it's going to get worse, unfortunately.
How do we get back to the post 9/11 camaraderie, where a country, at least it felt that, you know, we had let our guard down a little bit with one another, and we had, you know, come together somewhat? There was a couple of years there that I felt like, you know, we were making strides as a country as far as, you know, building ourselves and, you know, not being overly opinionated about other people. I thought that there was a sense of camaraderie. There was a sense of wanting to do good for the country. And certainly the patriotism was at a sky high at that time. How do we get back to that?
Well, unfortunately, you know, 9/11 was a tragic event where, you know, thousands of people died, and thousands of more people are dying as a residual effect of that. I think people are still dying today as, you know, being affected by some of the residual chemicals and whatever that they got exposed to, or the hazmat things they got exposed to at ground zero. But unfortunately, I think it's going to have to be a unifying leader that takes office, and they're going to have to be a war. And that's just the end, you know, that just in a war with another country. And that's when I think people will start coming together, when they start realizing, because what happens is people take advantage of the freedoms that we have, and they nag and complain all day long. It's just like your kids, you know, you take care of them and you get them everything they want, and then they start complaining and being ungrateful. And then you're like, oh, okay. And when you start losing privileges and stuff, and you realize this stuff can be gone in an instant, you start turning around. And I feel like if we go to war or something like that with another country, or somebody try to hit us on home soil, people are going to wake up and say, oh man, we can really die. Like, we can really be conquered. Like, we are free here. Like, they're trying to kill us. And then once they get to that point, then they're gonna realize that, oh, you know, the neighbors are gonna start helping each other and sharing food, and you know what I'm saying? And then eventually people are gonna start coming together in a person who's a genuine leader. And I don't know, you know, I'm kind of shaky about Bush, but at that time, Bush really brought the country together as a unifying force of saying, look, we are American, and we're going to fight back, and we're going to go kick their butts. And that's pretty much how he did it. And everybody was on board. And a unifying leader that's willing to stand up in an instance of crisis, I think, can be a way that America comes back. Unfortunately, a war will nearly guarantee more patriotism. A way that we can do it outside of war is just electing people who are not super extra crazy woke. And next time when Republicans, which they may never get because of, you know, other reasons, but next time we're in power as conservatives, Republicans, we need to take advantage of that. We need to cram laws down people's throat like Democrats are doing. And that's another way that we can probably gain some ground is like executive orders. Quit being soft and saying, oh no, I don't believe in signing, you know, too many executive orders. It seems like a dictatorship. And then they go sign 70 when they get in office. It's like, no, man. When you get in there, you cram it down their throats. It's like a football game where you up by 20. You need to be up by 70. And when you up by 70, throw that Hail Mary and score another touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what we need to do politically when we get power in places, because if we don't, they'll run the screw up on us. They don't care nothing about, being fair, nothing. They'll run it up.
Well, I'll tell you, I think one of the ways we start that is bringing back, the Pledge of Allegiance to school, standing with pride, with honor, putting that right hand across your heart, singing the Star Spangled Banner, having patriotism taught in our schools again, bringing, in God we trust back, bringing these fundamentals, man, that we are so missing in our society. And it's sad to see that we're in a stage right now where, schools don't want to teach anything to do with that. They don't want anything to do with that. Mm-hmm. So my question here is this, what do we do with schools? I mean, as a parent that you're sending your kids to these schools, it's like, what are they teaching them?
Mm-hmm. I'd say take your kid out of the school or put them in a private school, maybe a charter school. But we got to fight back. You can't just, the problem with society today is that, like I said, we were asleep behind the wheel when these things were happening to our kids. Mm-hmm. Everybody's chasing the American dream, chasing the money, chasing the 2 cars and a big screen TV with unlimited internet and 5 phones and the new smartphones. Sure. And all the gadgets that we want. So we work 2 jobs, or we got 2 parents working. And it's like, we forgot about, well, who's raising your kids while you're dying on this job, mm-hmm. both parents. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we need to get back to saying, okay, we need to really look at the responsibility we have as parents to raise our children and don't leave it up to these schools that are complete propaganda machines. Do you want your children to grow up and be a balanced individual? You want them to grow up being biased and radical and a leftist lunatic? And so we need to prioritize that. Maybe you can't have 2 cars. Maybe you don't have unlimited internet. But, maybe, and I'm just giving brief examples. Maybe you can't go out to eat every weekend. You can't go on vacation this year. Mm-hmm. Like you need to focus on your children. And if they're teaching these things in the schools and they're not changing, they say, they give you the middle finger, say, screw you. We're going to tell your kids what we want to tell them. And you got to pull your kids out of school. You have to pull them out of school. Take them home, homeschool them. Or put them into a private school. Say, instead of going on vacation, maybe you spend that money on a private school education where you can ensure that they're not going to teach your kid garbage. And then we have to start really, teaching young people the reality of college. Like, you don't have to go to college, and if you do, you better go and do something effective, because a lot of kids are going into college and they come $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 in debt.
Right.
And they are not going to a job that match nothing that they went to school for.
That's right.
And then it's just an indoctrination camp. So you go in there and you're dumber than what you were when you came out. Somebody had a principle that I heard, I don't know who was saying this, that they feel like that you need to take a break between 18 and 20. Don't go into college right away. Get a job, get some work experience. If you want to be an entrepreneur, have your entrepreneur explosion right there, because that's the most risk taking that you can do, instead of jumping right into a college university where your first year you pay for, you got to take gen ed classes. For what?
Right.
What do I need to take classes for? And I'm paying for this. I shouldn't have to take Spanish. For what?
Right.
If I don't want to, and not Spanish, but a foreign language,
mm-hmm.
I
Sure.
need to spend my time taking classes where in the field that I want to be in. And so, and people got to understand debt too. Debt is a bad thing if you're not leveraging debt, and you cannot leverage debt with a dead degree unless you're going for a medical practice or something like that.
Sure.
You're going as a lawyer, or, you know, you actually, your degree is specifically what you're going to do, you know, veterinarian or something, anything, you know, if you're a sociologist and you're going to go get your master's and PhD and you're writing books and, you know, seminars and a professor or whatever, I don't know, then maybe that'll make sense. But just having debt and paying interest for no reason puts you at a real disadvantage in life, economically.
Entitlement. Our society is entitled across the board. I see that every single day. Somehow people, they think they figured it out. You know what? Everybody owes me something. That's the way that they walk around. Now, where did they get this from?
Yeah, I think it's because they, you know, they living in the penthouse, you know, and the penthouse of countries. They living in the penthouse. They got a butler, you know, they never miss a meal, and they just take it for granted. Oh, you know, I deserve this. No, you don't know the work that went into getting this. You are now living in the penthouse. Somebody had to build from the crack house to the penthouse, if you you know what I'm saying. You don't understand that because now you're living in the penthouse. Same thing with America. Brother, some people died that America can be like this. They died. They took chances. They risked their lives, all of the above, to make sure America could end up in the penthouse state that it's in right now. And I really believe that people, this is why it's so important in schools to teach some of these things, you know, to teach civics and to teach how this country was founded in the reality of how it was founded and the risks that people took. Because I do think people are in a position of entitlement. However, I really do think that when the people who understand that entitlement is not the answer, a lot of them become far more successful than the ones who are entitled. And when you start to see more and more people who are successful that say, you know what, you know, you should love this country or whatever, I think it'll begin to influence some people who are not as successful yet, to realize that, you know, we don't need to take this for granted. Like I said, I hate to say that a war will be a factor in this too. But if we go to war again and people feel like that their lives are threatened and that the way of life can be completely eliminated like this, that people are coming for us like this, and even though our military is keeping them over there, if they start coming here, people are going to realize that, oh my God, this is a crazy, evil world, and they want us all to die. And they'll start really waking up to being like, okay, we can't take this for granted.
Black Lives Matter, Antifa. What's your take on these organizations? You know, I've been told, this is what I was told, and this is where it's confusing, that Black Lives Matter, as far as a movement, is very different than Black Lives Matter as an organization. Somehow, you know, I lost track on that. I wasn't, you know, maybe you can explain it to me. Maybe you're a little bit more versed in that. I don't know, but it doesn't quite, I don't quite understand it. So maybe you can shed some light on that.
I understand what they're trying to say, but it's still rooted in falsehoods, right? So Black Lives Matter as a movement is that, you know, that the people really care about Black lives and they want to be out in the community, bringing awareness. Black Lives Matter as an organization is a political organization that raises hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and none of that goes to the Black community, and they don't even care about the Black community. All you got to do is look at the money that they raised on George Floyd's life, Breonna Taylor's life, and all that, and none of the families got none of that money. So it has nothing to do with Black people. You know, it's just it's a slogan and a facade for them to donate to political candidates and really push it, almost like a military propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. So I see what they're trying to say. However, the phrase Black Lives Matter and all of that is rooted in falsehoods. All of this is rooted back in Trayvon Martin, when Trayvon Martin was killed by a vigilante. And Trayvon Martin was, you know, he was a young man, but that dude, he wasn't no innocent little boy who was just walking down the street one day and a racist white man killed him. First of all, the guy wasn't even white. And then there was a conflict that happened and nobody can prove who actually initiated the conflict. But it started from there. And it's like, then it goes to Breonna Taylor. Then it goes to George Floyd. Michael Brown. And these are all people who are criminals who, you know, especially Michael Brown, he tried to kill a police officer and end up getting shot. So when you look at it, you say, what is the movement in general? Forget the organization. What is the movement? Black people are not oppressed in America. Black people are not getting killed by police for no reason and getting hunted down. Black people are not, that's not true. I mean, I can name 3 black people that I know that just make the billionaire list this year. And you can say, oh, it's just one black person. It's like, no, but that black person has influences on millions of other black people that they can financially help. They can psychologically help. They have influence over. So, you know, Rihanna, you know, she's Caribbean or whatever, but Rihanna was a billionaire. What's his name? Kanye West was named a billionaire this year. Obviously, we know Oprah's a billionaire. A few other rappers are billionaires. And there's some billionaires that we don't even know are billionaires at this point because they haven't came out with, you know, their financials. But, you know, we got a lot of successful black people in this dispensation of time. So to even try to push that black people somehow need a movement is just asinine. It's just not true. Black people need a movement in their own community. And when I say that, I mean it. Like, if you want to do a movement, then go to South Side of Chicago and do a movement there to stop black on black violence. And I'm just gonna give you some quick stats and then I'll shut my mouth. If you just look at the statistical data of the violence between black people versus other black people and the police, which Black Lives Matter is pushing, even the movement is pushing, you just look at it, you know, around 14 unarmed black people shot every year. Now, we know, as former police officers, we know that every unarmed person is not unjustifiably shot. You know, you can be a deadly threat and be unarmed. And so, but just for the sake of argument, about 14 black people a year are shot unarmed by police. Around 7,000 black people are killed by other black people every year. All you got to do is go 10-year span. Just give me a 10-year span. That'll be 140 black people shot unarmed in 10 years by the police. Yeah, it'll be 70,000 killed by other black people. 140 versus 70,000.
Yes.
You tell me which one should be the priority.
Yeah.
Every day, black people are getting shot and killed. And I saw a picture. I made a video. Lady walks up. She parks her car, put the hazard lights on, walk out, shoot the girl in the head, walk back to a car, get in it, and drive off. And Black Lives Matter will never show up to that scene. They'll never protest that. That girl still have not turned herself in. They'll never protest that. I seen kids getting shot in the head. Sakaria Turner, a young girl named Sakaria Turner. I remember she got killed in a shootout with 2 ignorant Negroes. She gets shot in the head or killed. Her mom is holding her as she dies. Mom's car is destroyed because of the shootout. Mom's phone had to get taken because of the investigation. All of those things happen. Black Lives Matter don't show up at all. The girl had to GoFundMe, and it only had like $4,000 in it.
Yeah.
But Jacob Blake and Michael Brown, they $1 million overnight. People on my channel, and I made a video about it. People on my channel raised $300,000 for that young lady's family.
Amazing.
300,000. And so all I'm saying is that the movement, all this stuff, these things are myths. You know, it's a myth. And black people really need a movement for their own accountability and issues in the community.
Brandon, so with that said, man, you're a headstrong guy. You speak from the heart. You know, and everything that you talk about, I mean, it's researched. You're not coming from some la-la land making up statistics. And you know, do you get a lot of hatred for this? I mean, do you get a lot of people, you know, that you know, especially from the black community, saying, you know, you're not stating the truth, or you know, you're making up this? I mean, how do you, first of all, do you, and second of all, how do you deal with that?
Well, I couldn't care less about what people think about me, especially when I'm doing what's right, and what I'm saying is rooted in facts and also personal experience with being a police officer. Most of the people that talk about police, they never even put a uniform on. They never seen a person, you know, they never been around a person with a uniform on. So, you know, I'm speaking from facts. I do get a lot of backlash, and it's weird to me because I wish that more black people I would consider to be more intelligent, because even successful black people come at me crazy and say I'm an Uncle Tom Coon sellout. And all I'm saying is facts. All I'm doing is telling exactly what they say with each other behind the scenes. They just don't like it because I say it in front of white people. You know, it's just crazy to me. And I know people criticize me a lot and say, your followers are white. Your followers are white. You just pandering to a white audience. And I'm like, to be honest, it says more about black people than it says about white people following me. How in the world do we have African-American people in this country that can't get behind the message that I'm saying. They can't get behind personal accountability. They can't get behind patriotism and serving and protecting other people. They can't get behind the fact that we need fathers to be in the home so that the structure of the family can be improved like it used to be for Black people.
Yeah,
I don't understand. Why can't me saying you can be as great as you want to be and you pursue your dreams? I'm an example of that. And Black people don't want to hear that. They want to hear me say that I ain't never gonna be nothing because the white man holding me down. And I'm not saying all Black people. I'm just saying the ones who criticize me. And even in law enforcement, it's like I'm showing you, I'm proving to you, this is a justified use of force. And you may not like the way it looked, but according to the law, this is justified. And this is why the police officer did this. If this was your uncle as the police officer, you would want him to do exactly what he did. Yeah. But I'm a coon Uncle Tom sellout. But let me just say this real quick. I went to an event at Rider University, and this is where it really struck me. And this was the only time I actually hurt my feelings just a little bit for like 30 seconds. I went to Rider University. It's supposed to be 50 people there. It was a Turning Point USA event. 450 people showed up. So just imagine that. 450 people show up. So 400 of those 450 were anti-Brandon Tatum. I went to the thing to talk about that white privilege was a myth. Anti-Brandon Tatum. I had a young lady come up to ask a question after I gave my entire speech. She said, I told her, you can be whatever you want to be. You work hard. She said, my mom is a crackhead. I said, you are the new generation. God has put you in a position to start something new. You're at this university with a free education. It's time for you to do something about it. Change your generation. You can be whatever you want to be. Believe in yourself. I got booed. They booed me. Wow. 400 people. Boo. And I was like, I cannot believe the brainwashing that is in the spirit of a lot of Black people in this country. And however, at the end of the day, it's not about black and white. It's about God and about doing what's right. And if I'm doing those two things, I don't care who's mad at me. Just like Jesus, they killed him, just like Jesus. Y'all gonna be mad at me for telling the truth. And I'm good with that. As long as I'm telling the truth, I'm good with that.
Awesome, man. Those are very powerful words, Brandon. Man, I wish we had more time here. There's so much, we can sit here and have a great conversation. There's so much. I had a whole stack of things here to ask you, but man, you're, first of all, I love your passion, and I think that for our listeners here, you got to go follow this guy. Okay. He speaks from the heart and he tells it like it is. Where can people follow you on the social media, Brandon?
Just type in Officer Tatum in the Google, DuckDuckGo, whichever one you want to use. And all of my social media handles will pop up. My website, theofficertatum.com. All things Tatum is on there. So if you're looking for my YouTube channel, my merch store, my book, awesome. You can go down the gamut. Anything, if you put in Officer Tatum on a Google search, you'll find everything you want to find about me. Awesome.
What's the name of your book?
It's Beating Black and Blue, Being a Black Cop in America Under Siege. It's available for pre-order now. It comes out November the 30th. Signed copies are available. If you go to, like I said, my website has it, or if you go to beatingblackandblue.com, you can get it from Amazon, or you can get it from my store, which is the signed copy is on my store.
All right. So what I'm going to do is all this is going to be placed on the show notes. We'll have a direct link to his website, to the book, and all his social media on our information on this podcast. All right, Brandon, man. Look, all I can tell you is that I'm aligned with you. Your vision and your mission is spot on. We need more patriots like you, people speaking the truth, people, really wanting to see our society come together. And sometimes it takes that directness, that speaking from the heart to change someone. And I think you keep up doing God's work. I think, you're going to make a big change here in this country. And I appreciate you for being on.
And thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. And next time I'll try to keep the responses shorter so we can get through more stuff. But, by all means, have me back, just, reach out to us and I'll come back on. You just let me know the date and time.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. Thanks, brother. What a great conversation. All right. Very powerful, very meaningful. Take these elements, these components, and start integrating them into your life. You'll be changed without a doubt. Listen, give us a follow on Instagram at Man of War with 2 R's. Also on YouTube, youtube.com/Man of War. If you can just turn on that notification bell and, of course, give us a subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook at The Real Man of War. All right, my brothers, thank you very much for listening. Until next time, your life may be full of danger, but never retreat. Your last battle may be your greatest victory.